does that even mean, Bowers game corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another oh-so-delicious list. And I love doing these lists. I'm going to start doing them on a pretty regular basis. And I want to do some lists that are a little bit different, off the beaten path. So that's why I want to take time between lists to really think of some interesting topics. So this one's a very personal topic today. And this one is going to be a list of the top 9 people I appreciate in our hobby, and why do I do that? So this is kind of an odd list because I'm going to be hopefully spotlighting people who either A, you know about, or B, you don't know about, and maybe helping you look at them in a different light, which is my own personal experience in the hobby. Now, with these 9 people, I'm also going to give you a full disclaimer that this is in no particular order, because it would be really hard to slot these people because they've all contributed to different ways, in a lot of different ways, to make our hobby better. So, starting off, number 9, I got Max Temkin. And Max Temkin is the creator of Cards Against Humanity, and right now a lot of you just clicked off the video. But I want you to hear me out on this. While I have since grown out of Cards Against Humanity, it's not a game that I own anymore, or I really have that much of a desire to play. Think about how many people got into the hobby because Max Temkin created the wildly dirty apples to apples ripoff of Cards Against Humanity. That's how I got in here. How many people has he brought into our hobby? 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? I don't think 100,000 is that crazy of a number. Because think about it. How many people have you seen playing Cards Against Humanity that you don't see playing board games normally? And how many of those people have eventually either started to add maybe some gateway games to that, some lighter stuff to that, and got into the hobby? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And I think that while I've never personally met Max Temkin, I have given him a drunken phone call once asking him for free tickets to a comedy show for a city that I wasn't actually in at the time, which, wowzers, wildly unprofessional there. I still want to thank him, because without him, I would not be in this hobby at all. Cards Against Humanity and Zombie Dice were the first 2 hobby games that I really got a chance to play when I was a grown-up, and they both they helped me get into the door. So Max Temkin, despite the fact you might not like Cards Against Humanity, despite the fact you think it's wildly inappropriate or not a fun game or terribly a ripoff or whatever, we got to give the guy some props because he has brought so many people into the hobby. And Secret Hitler's also a really great game. So, continuing on, I've got another game designer. I believe this is the last game designer on the list. No, actually, that's not true. I have Matt Leacock of Pandemic fame. Because while Max Temkin opened the door to me to the possibility of, hey, board games and card games are kind of fun, Matt Leacock kicked that door open with Pandemic. And I still remember I went to my local game store, my friendly local game store, Game Quest. Amazing store, made by these guys named Rob and Jared. Great guys. I walked in and I was like, hey, you guys got Cards Against Humanity? They're like, no, we don't, but we can order it for you. And I was like, oh, cool. Kind of wanted it right now. Do you know if any place in town might have that? Which is also a really unprofessional. You know, that's a kind of a crappy question. But they're like, I'm not sure. I know a lot of friendly stores don't carry it because it's mostly on Amazon. I said, oh, okay. Was there anything you have that's like Cards Against Humanity? Well, not really, but we have this game called Pandemic, which is really, really good. And I was with my buddy Chad at the time, and I said, oh, Pandemic, sure. What are we doing? He's like, we're saving the world. It's a game where you're working together to save the world. And he set out this big board and all this stuff, and I was like, oh my god. Oh my god, I feel like such a nerd right now. What is this? This is terrible. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my god, I'm buying this game. And that was the floodgate. That was the official moment in time where I said, board games are amazing. And that's when I started to want to play all the board games I could possibly play and talk about board games at all hours of the day, which eventually got me into doing this, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But Matt Leacock was the one. If he would have hooked me up with a different game, maybe he would have hooked me up with a game that would not have had such a crazy, profound effect on me, then I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be talking about games. I wouldn't have tons of friends in the hobby. I wouldn't be doing all the stuff that I do. I wouldn't be sharing these games with the kids of the future in my classroom and sharing with other people and doing videos and doing all this stuff. So Matt Leacock, without a doubt. And up until about a couple years ago, he was my favorite game designer. Now he's not because I've had other people that just have usurped him. But Matt Leacock, I give a huge thanks to, because if I would have played a different game in that friendly local game store, chances are I would probably not be here right now. So, next person we have on the list is Tom Vasel. And I don't need to say that much about Tom Vasel. Most people know Tom Vasel. I've never had any personal bad experience with Tom Vasel. I've sat down, I've talked to him quite a few times, and he's been an incredibly pleasant, supportive guy, and I have absolutely zero bad things to personally say about Tom Vasel. But why Tom Vasel is on this list is because he gave me the vision. He did. He gave me the vision. I was Googling, YouTubing, binging, whatever it was at the time, just board games. And I saw, whoa. Who's this guy? He's shooting videos about board games? And people are watching these? Bing! Light bulb. I could do that. What? Why can't I do that? I love talking about board games. You know, I got some charisma going on here. You know, I might not have the best camera present or the best equipment, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and shoot a video. And I almost said a bad word. I kid you not. Within 2 or 3 days of seeing Tom Vasel's video, I was like, you know what? I can do it. And I shot my first review. And that was something I was like, all right, I'm going to do this every single week. And then I started to get a subscriber or two, and it was like a drug. I was like, this is awesome. This is fantastic. And then other things happened, which we'll be discussing later on the list. But without Tom Vasel, without me just randomly stumbling onto one of Tom Vasel's videos, there's a good chance that I would have been like most of you sane people and not spend all my time shooting videos about board games. But Tom Vasel really did that, and I've had nothing but positive experiences with him since then. He allowed me to be on his channel for Throat Punch Lunch for a while, which was a great opportunity for me to grow. I've had dinner with him before, and he's just a great guy. I have nothing negative to say about him. So Tom Vasel gave me the idea. So next one I want to talk about is one you might not know. The first three are probably people that you've probably heard of, or you have an idea, or maybe you just don't know their name. The next one I would give is Scott Alden. And Scott Alden is the owner of Board Game Geek, which for everyone who follows board games pretty regularly knows that that's the only board gaming website. There are other board gaming websites that do this and do that, but Scott's Board Game Geek is without a doubt the mecca of board games. And it's not even close. It's like, here's 1A, and then the next best board gaming site, at least in my personal opinion, I would imagine in most people's opinion, is like R. It's like, oh, here's 1A and here's R. And the site does everything. I mean, you want to trade? You got trade. You want to play games via forum? You can do that. You want to get this incredibly obscure promo card or set up this incredibly elaborate math trade at a convention or meet new people in your area or meet like-minded people or discuss a particular board game at 3:45 in the morning. Board Game Geek is your website. And I've also been very fortunate to talk to Scott a lot because we're on the same podcast, The Undead Vikings, Alaboom, the weekly Alaboom, and I have just grown to be incredibly fond of the guy. He is one of the nicest people in our hobby, hands down, and this is a hobby full of nice people. It's astounding how nice most of the people are in the hobby. Some of them are a little bit on the suspect side, but for the most part, behind the scenes, and this is going to make you feel hopefully good, most of the people are incredibly nice, incredibly fantastic people, and Scott is at the top of the list. At least in my personal opinion. He runs the website, very humble guy. He does his best to make the website as good as he can. He has so many big ideas for the website. He has so many big ideas for the hobby. And all of it started because he was just one of us. He was a dude that was super passionate about board games. I remember him talking about it one time, how there were like these secret online internet thingy-mabobbers where he would get, exclusive upcoming information, and then he posted online, and it just started to grow. There's something crazy like that. I'll have to interview about him one time. I think that'd be a really interesting interview. But he has continued to do it, and with BGG continuing to grow, just rapidly continuing to grow, and the hobby continuing to grow, he's still doing it. He's still at the helm. He works super hard at it, and he's just an incredibly nice guy. And without his website, and this is why I'm so appreciative of him, not the fact that he's just an amazing guy. He's also donated to our Kickstarter before, which big ups. But the big thing is the website continues to get better. The website has all my videos on it. I post in the forums, not too much, but I post in the forums, but that is the main spot. So I get most of my views on YouTube, and then a huge chunk of them are on external sites, aka Board Game Geek. And so he is essentially, and every content creator should be incredibly thankful to Scott Alden, because he has created this space, this one space where everything is, and every game is, and you can put your stuff there, and everyone who's interested in that game can see your stuff. Just think about that for a second. He created the website that allows this guy from Poland, this guy from Russia, this guy from Canada, this guy from Milwaukee, this guy from everywhere around the world, and these gals, excuse me, to come together to see this information about board games and put this yokel Indiana dude sitting in his basement. It's put his opinion out there and put everybody's opinion out there, and it's just, I'm done talking about it, but he has done so much. If you ever get a chance to see Scott at a convention, say hi to him. He's a super nice guy, and thank him for Board Game Geek, because Board Game Geek is just so stinking great. Next one I got is Richard Bliss, which I imagine most people don't know. He hosts a podcast called Funding the Dream, and I have listened to countless hours of that podcast. This is an absolutely spectacular podcast, and if anyone ever comes to me and they say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a Kickstarter, what should I do? What should I start? I say, listen to Funding the Dream, read Jamey Stegmaier's blog, and honestly, without his blog, not Jamey Stegmaier's blog, but without Richard Bliss Funding the Dream podcast, which is an outstanding podcast, which I've actually been on once after I funded my own game, I would not have funded my game. I learned so much because what he does is he gets on there, and he doesn't claim to be an expert or a guru, but he interviews people who have done exactly what you want to do. And he interviews all sorts of people who have had huge successes, who have huge failures, who have had huge successes and then huge failures, who had huge successes, but then it turned into a colossal failure for one reason or the other. And he covers all these different aspects. And if you go through his list of podcasts, I almost can, I'm not going to guarantee you, but I'm going to give you about a 90% certainty chance that he has interviewed someone who is in your situation, either maybe in the beginning process of creating a game, or the middle process of creating a game, or the end, and what you do with shipping and fulfillment and all that stuff. He's interviewed people about it, and it is just an invaluable resource. I've also got the chance to meet him, I think, twice. Very nice, pleasant guy. Super tall, by the way. Also, Tom Vasel, super tall. But heck of a guy, and I love his podcast. And without his podcast, I would not have got to create my dream of making a game, which I did, and 500 copies of it. Not much, but I did it. It's my thing. I created it. I'm happy about it. So, continuing on to number 6, we have, let's go with Seth Hiatt. So Seth Hiatt is the president, the guru, the CEO, the whatever of Mayday Games. And the big reason why he's on this list is because he has been incredibly supportive of my channel pretty much from the jump, you know. And when I first started the channel, I was really uncomfortable asking about review copies of games because I was a small fish. I was a super small fish. Like when I first started reviewing, you know, obviously you start at 0 subscribers. It's like, and I remember he was the first company that said, hey, would you want some review copies? And I was just like, oh, yeah. And since then, I've done tons of Kickstarter videos for him. I've reviewed a whole bunch of his games, and I just have nothing bad to say about him. You know, I really enjoy discussing politics with him, which I'm not going to do right now, but we have very wildly different political views, and it's really fun to discuss wildly different political views when everybody's a big grown-up and can handle it. And he's one of those people. I personally like the guy on a personal level. I enjoy following his Facebook. I enjoy every conversation where I have the guy. He's a super nice guy, super hard-working dude, and one of the earliest supporters of Bauer's Game Corner in the industry. So, gotta give him a big shout-out. Seth Hiatt, Mayday Games, big fan. So, continuing on, what do I do next? Let's do Rodney Smith of Watch It Played, number whatever the heck this is. And this one, I've met him a couple times. Super nice guy. The only real reason why I have him on this list is because he has saved me. I don't want to overestimate here. I really don't. Days. He has saved me days of time that I would have otherwise been struggling with rule books. And this is not, you know, both on the reviewer side and both on the just casual guy playing game side, his videos have saved me so much time, both explaining rules so I can like just set up the video, then go upstairs or start setting up the game, or learning games. Now, I do want to forewarn you, I feel like I got to make this so nobody mentions it. Yes, when I do watch his video, when I review one of my games, I still go back and I read the rule booklet and I still discuss the rule booklet and what I think about the rule booklet. So don't think that I just watch the video then review stuff. But his videos are spectacular, and I know I've caught flack for this from quite a few people, and I'll stand my ground. He's the best at what he does. Not saying other people are bad at what they do by any stretch of the imagination, but by saying Leonardo DiCaprio's the most amazing actor on the planet, you're not saying other actors are garbage. You're just saying he's just above the rest. And in my personal opinion, Rodney Smith of Watch Played is above the rest, which is why he's gotten so successful, which is why he's one of the most beloved figures in our entire hobby, and he deserves every inch of success that he's gotten. Spectacular videos, and it saved me so much time. So huge thanks to him. We got 2 more people on the list. Which one do I want to do? Let's go Jamey Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. So Jamey, on a personal level, nice guy. Done lots of interview with him. Just a very pleasant guy. You know, I haven't spent much time with him. Like, I haven't had dinner or anything like that, so I'm not going to make it sugarcoat it like we're friends or anything like that. But yeah, we're acquaintances. We've worked together on interviews and whatnot. I've done Kickstarter videos for him. I've reviewed some of his games, and he seems like a perfectly pleasant guy, and I've heard nothing bad about him from anyone, which is great. You want to hear that. You want to hear that about somebody in the hobby who you like their games. And I've heard nothing bad about him. Same with Jonathan Gilmore. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that, because maybe he's one of my favorite designers now, but he's also a super nice guy as well. Never heard anything bad about him. Completely irrelevant. Let's get back to Jamey Stegmaier. The reason why he's on this list is because he gave me one of my biggest breaks in my career of doing board games, and that was he allowed me to do the Kickstarter review for Scythe, and that was big. That was a turning point. I remember I did a gameplay video of Scythe where we actually screwed some stuff up, and then I did a review of Scythe, which, dear God, don't watch it, because the quality of the video, it legitimately looks like I turned on a fog machine in my basement and then I shot the review. So it's not the best review by any stretch of the imagination, which my quality has improved greatly, as hard as that is to believe. But he gave me the opportunity. There was a lot of other people he could have handed that opportunity to, and that would have been big breaks for them, but instead it was a big break for me, and I gained a lot of subscribers for that, and he also supported me in the form of hooking me up with some promo cards a couple of years ago in one of my Kickstarters. And I remember he sent out, I think he sent out a Kickstarter message to the people. He doesn't do any of this stuff now because he's, Stonemaier Games is huge. He doesn't do this now for people, but at the time, I remember that I think he sent out a Kickstarter message to some of his backers to say that there were going to be promo cards that were in this. And it was just him saying, oh, this is nothing that you don't have. It's just letting them know that, it's not anything exclusive. But I still remember I got so many backers that day. I probably picked up, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 backers that day of people who were just like, oh, if Stonemaier Games supports you, I want to support you too. And that was huge. And he helped me grow. And I want to give him some love because he also makes some great games too. I like Charterstone. I love Scythe. I think that's cracking my top 5. But there we go. Last but not least, number 9, I have Lance Myxter, a.k.a. the Undead Viking. So, let's be honest here. I appear like a big extrovert, don't I? I appear like this guy who's going to be coming up to you and talking your ear off and being bubbly. That's not me. That's not me. I hate small talk. I'm not good at small talk. I feel awkward and cringy whenever I have to do small talk, which is going to make me sound like a jerk, and that's fine. I like to be honest here, but I hate doing small talk. And so, one of the things that I've always done at Gen Con, and I've always done at Origins, is that if you ever see me at Gen Con or Origins, I don't like having small talk conversations, and I will intentionally go out of my way to work as hard as I possibly can. And part of the reason is, deep down, subliminally, is because I don't want to go out to have drinks afterwards. I don't want to go get food after we get done at the Gen Con hours halls. I want to work because I feel comfortable working. I feel comfortable putting up YouTube videos. I feel comfortable doing a lot of things. But being out in these public social situations and talking and chatting, I do well at them. People are like, wow, really? You don't feel comfortable doing this? I said, yeah, I don't, but I do really well at them, I guess. But I don't feel comfortable with it. So what I do is I bury myself in my work. And Lance was the only media personality. I take that back. Tom Vasel has pulled me aside and just talked to me randomly before. But aside from that, Lance is the only one who's really come up and said, oh, hey, Forrest! And I still remember at the time, like, I knew of Lance. I've seen some of his videos, and he knew of me. And it was no like, come in here, give me a big hug. I remember we were in the press room. I still have pictures of this. And that little seed grew and grew and grew, and I started being on his podcast. I actually started being on his podcast, oddly enough, just because I was up super late one night because I was gambling. And I was like, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoy talking, and I've met so many other people in the hobby, and I've discussed so many other things. And this is also where I really got to know Scott Alden, a bunch of other fantastic people, Pete, and just all sorts of people on the Undead Vikings podcast, The Weekly Out of Boom. But it wouldn't have happened at all if it wouldn't have been for that chance encounter and that chance hug in the press room at Gen Con, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, where Lance was like, yeah, you should join us. And I'm sure he's done that to plenty of other people. He's an incredibly nice guy. He's a big hugger. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one who got it, but it really meant a lot to me, and that has grown, And Tasty Mitchell Games, he works for them now. They support my channel. I talk to him on the Alden, I'll call him on his birthday to wish him happy birthday and stuff like that. And it would not have happened for that. And I will say, I feel like me being on that podcast has helped me in so many different ways, just making connections with different people. And I'll give you a perfect example, actually, of this. And this is just a minor example, but one of the people that's routinely on the podcast is Barry, the guy from France who does the Barry Dublet. It's Dublet. Is it Dublet? Dublet. I think it's French. Who does the podcast? He's an incredibly nice guy. I've got the chance to play a game with him before, and he's just a super duper nice dude. I also love just discussing things with him, and he comes at it from a completely different perspective because he's not from America, which is fantastic. But he knows the guys from Monolith. He's done a lot of work with the guys from Monolith. And apparently, Monolith, which is a big company, had one extra copy of Batman. Batman Gotham City Chronicles. And just because I knew Barry, and Barry knew I was a reviewer, and Barry knew that I've reviewed a lot of games, and despite the fact I'm smaller, he was able to kind of put my name into Monolith's ear, and Monolith was like, yeah, sure, why not? And just like that, I have probably going to be one of the most popular games that comes out in 2019, that I would have never owned. Let's be realistic here. Unless I win the lottery or get rich and famous or something like that, this is one of those games that I would never own, and now I get the chance to play it, and I'm like, whoa, holy crap, this is awesome. This is a miniatures game. There's Batman, there's this, and there's that. And that's just one specific example of where being on that podcast that Lance invited me to has allowed me a big opportunity, because that video, it's probably going to be a pretty decent video for me, and it might open someone else. It's going to get people to watch my channel who might not have watched my channel before, and they'll be like, hey, I kind of like this guy. And then they subscribe to me, and then that's how I grow. But without Lance, I would not have done that networking, and I don't think I would be as big as it was if I wouldn't have joined the Alaboom. And so huge thanks to him. So there you go. Weird list, I know, but those are the top 9 people that I appreciate in the hobby, and I'm sure there's some people I forgot to mention. That's going to happen inevitably. And obviously, this is obviously a wildly personal opinion here. I'm sure if you asked Tom Vasel, he would have 9 completely different people. I know somebody's going to say, why do you have Tom Vasel and not Scott Nicholson? Because that's because I didn't see Scott Nicholson's video. I saw Tom Vasel's video. I've also never met Scott Nicholson, and I really don't have any connection with him, aside from the fact that I appreciate he is the godfather of board gaming reviews, and he kind of started everything. But anywho, off on a tangent here. That's my top 9 people that I appreciate in the board game hobby, in no particular order, as I like to mention. But there you go. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click on that little Amazon Associates link down below. Buy anything on Amazon, save amazing great prices, and throw us a couple pennies my way. Really does help support the channel. And in the comments below, let me know. This is a really interesting one. Who's the one person in the hobby that you appreciate the most? And this, I think this is going to be really interesting, because most of you guys and gals are normal people who just like playing board games. So I'm going to guess that a lot of it is going to be Tom Vasel, because the Dice Tower, I know when I first, and that's something I didn't even mention about Tom Vasel. So I want to rewind just a tad bit and say, the Dice Tower, I love the Dice Tower. When I first got into the hobby and I found out about the Dice Tower, I listened to the podcast all the time while I was doing dishes, while I was mowing the grass. I watched the videos. I loved Miami Dices. Miami Dices, when Miami Dice would get on there, because Z Garcia and Sam Healy and Tom in there getting all those conflicting opinions, I loved that. So I don't want to undercut the fact that I also used to be someone who just absolutely adored the Dice Tower. Now, obviously, I don't have time to do that because I got to do other stuff, but there you go. But let me know in the comments below, who's the person you appreciate the most in the hobby, and as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.